This episode is brought to you by Indie Film Hustle Academy, where filmmakers and screenwriters go to learn from top Hollywood industry professionals. Learn more at ifhacademy.com. In my opinion, a decade-defining film, which is Wall Street, it really captures a segment of what the 80s were like for people who wanted to kind of feel what it was like to be there at that time. And I feel that that's something that you do with a lot of your films. You define the era so beautifully, like with The Doors and JFK.
I just set out to tell the story in the best style I could. I was able to get better and better at filmmaking, and it's all about experience. You know, I'm no genius. And I sat with my crew, with Bob and Bruno and Alex. We set a style for each film that worked for that film. In other words, JFK was done in a very specific style for that story, as was Natural Born Killers. And so was, and Wall Street was done this way. Born on the 4th of July was very, very hard and almost cinemascope vision of reality, linear story. We made it linear. The book was not. Mm-hmm. So each film, I was never thinking about this is defining something. I think a lot of my work since then has also defined for me new things, but if people don't see it yet, they will one day. I've gotten more and more into documentaries. I've done 9 or 10 now, 8 or 9, including the Untold History of the United States is, I think, one of my strongest efforts. It was done in 2012, and it was 12 hours long. It was the history of untold history of this country from 1898 to 2012 with Mr. Obama. Please see it. If you haven't seen it, you have to see it.
I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it.
You have seen it?
Yeah, I saw it when it came out back in the day, and I
see it again.
Yeah, I know. I saw it's.
You got to pay attention.
No, it's absolutely. Now, when you were making Wall Street, did you worked at the Paris Mercantile Exchange when you were a teenager? Is that correct?
How'd you know that?
Well, I do a little bit of research. And is that one of the things that kind of drew you to that story? What made you make Wall Street? Because there's so much passion behind there.
Yeah, I worked on the Cocoa and Sugar Exchange in Paris one summer. Yeah. And my father was on Wall Street for most of his life, from 1930s on, 1932, 3, right. 4, in that area. No, at 4 he became he was a floor walker in the Depression, and then he became a stockbroker, an analyst. He worked his way up. It was the old system. He was the Hal Holbrook character in a sense, or the Marty Sheen character from Wall Street. He was the old-fashioned value. It was the way, do it the right way. Wall Street for him was a serious religion. It was the engine of American business. And I mean, he meant it seriously, because Wall Street was where you would go to get money. You would go to capitalize your business for research and for capitalization. I mean, it's very important to build companies. It was his idea of America. It was building. And he saw Wall Street as a most positive factor, which I believe it was for many people. Although, obviously, there's some privilege and abuse. Some people take advantage of it to more. But my father was a good man, and I don't think money was not his goal. It was about he was an intellectual. He wrote monthly letters. So he really cared about this. If he had lived past 85, he would have been, I think, surprised to see a Gordon Gekko type. When I made the movie, the business was changing. I had friends who were making millions of dollars at my age, on Wall Street. Well, actually, at that time I was actually 43. So I'm saying people were making money in their 30s, some in their late 20s. This was unheard of in my father's day.
Oh, right.
Now, and of course, it was revealed. A new business was revealed. The concept of businessmen like Gekko going into companies and getting their stockholders to vote for them, and breaking up these companies, and in some cases cannibalizing them. That is to say, taking businesses like big business and take a subsection of it and sell it off, cannibalize it. That's what he does in the movie. Charlie Sheen's father is a union rep at the airline. He runs the union.
Yes, Blue Star, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he takes over on a tip from Charlie that was given to him. He takes advantage of the naivete of Charlie, Michael Douglas does, and he buys into the company. It's one of his many things he's doing. He buys into the company and eventually gets control of it, and then breaks it up, destroying so many jobs And I showed that, the pain of that, and I think that's important. And the father feels betrayed by the son. The father has a heart attack. The son understands the scope of his mistake was huge. So many people get hurt, and all his life, he in other words, he repents. He gets to this. You'll see what happens in the movie. He changes, and he goes after Gecko, reveals him to the SEC, and takes the fall. He himself takes the fall. He gets involved. He gets to go to jail, and presumably he's learned his lesson and comes out of jail, and he'll be a good man, a better man. That's a true story. It happened a lot. But the surprise of the movie, of course, was that, first of all, they didn't want to make that either, because who cares about business? There was not many business movies before that were serious. This was, and they distributed it very weirdly. It's a whole story there. I write about in the next book, but it actually hung around, and it made money over time. It became a big cult favorite, and more than that, it became as you say, it affected a lot of young people who went into Wall Street. Some of them I've met since then. Some of them made fortunes on Wall Street. They owe me a commission.
A small commission.
In a way, I was my father's continuation, because he was a broker, made money for people, not himself. But the shock was that Michael Douglas, who was the supporting character, the bad guy, so to speak, becomes the star of the movie in people's minds, and of course wins the Oscar.
I know.
The film doesn't get nominated for anything, not even for screenplay, and there are many witty lines in it. But no, he went to Michael, and Charlie went his own way in his own career, and I think he was a talented young actor. But you know where he went. He went into girls and money, but. He was the first part of the film. I don't think he was the second part.
Fair enough.